He helped a lost alien girl over the mountains. The next day, 30 starships surrounded his cave. The setting sun painted the alien mountain range in hues of amber and gold, casting long shadows across the ancient ruins that dotted the landscape. Evan Mercer wiped sweat from his brow as he finished reinforcing the eastern wall of his cave dwelling, a natural formation expanded by some forgotten civilization whose hieroglyphs still adorned the deeper chambers. Another day in paradise, he muttered to himself, stepping back to admire his handiwork. 6 years since the colony's ship disaster. 6 years living alone in this mountain sanctuary while the corporate vultures fought over salvage rights in the valley settlements below. Evan had chosen isolation over the politics and backstabbing of the emergency colonies, finding solace in the quiet majesty of these mountains that reminded him of Earth's Himalayas. If the Himalayas had been designed by architects with a flair for the impossible, his cave home was nestled within what appeared to be a massive, partially collapsed structure, resembling a fortress city carved directly into the mountainside. The locals called it Sky Reach, a place they avoided due to superstition. For Evan, it was perfect. He rolled his shoulders, the muscles rippling beneath his sun-bronzed skin. Years of survival had hardened his already athletic frame, turning him into something that resembled the ancient warriors whose statues still stood guard in the ruins below. His military-grade survival gear, salvaged and modified, had served him well, especially the reinforced dark green jacket with its patchwork of protective plates. The alien weapon strapped across his back hummed softly, as it always did near sunset. He'd found it 2 years ago in a sealed chamber deep within the ruins, a sleek, elegant thing that responded to his touch as if it had been waiting for him. The locals would pay a fortune for it, but some things weren't for sale. Evan's daily patrol route took him along the western ridge, following a mountain stream that provided fresh water and occasional fish-like creatures that tasted almost like trout. The path was treacherous in places, but he knew every handhold, every loose stone. He was halfway down the trail when he heard it, a soft whimper carried on the evening breeze. Evan froze, his hand automatically reaching for the alien weapon. 6 years of solitude had made him cautious. Following the sound, he moved silently through the underbrush until he reached a small clearing by the rushing river. There, attempting to cross at the shallowest point, was a figure unlike any he'd seen before. She was humanoid, with delicate features that seemed almost too perfect to be natural. Her silvery blue hair cascaded down her back in tangles, and her clothing, what remained of it, appeared to be some kind of formal attire in soft pastel hues, now torn and muddied. But what caught his attention most were her eyes, large, almond-shaped, and a luminescent turquoise that seemed to glow in the fading light. She was clearly injured, favoring her right leg as she attempted to navigate the slippery rocks. Each step caused her to wince, her face contorting with pain. Evan hesitated only a moment before stepping into view. The woman, if that term even applied, startled at his appearance, nearly losing her footing in the rushing water. "Don't be afraid," he called out, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'll help you." Her eyes widened, and she spoke in a language he didn't understand, musical and flowing. The universal translator he wore on his wrist, standard colony equipment, crackled to life, struggling to process the unfamiliar dialect. Pursuers? Not safe," was all it managed to translate before failing. Evan didn't need a translator to understand fear. He approached slowly, keeping his movements deliberate and non-threatening. "You're hurt," he said, pointing to her leg. "Let me help you cross." Understanding seemed to dawn in her eyes, and she nodded cautiously. When he reached her, he noticed she was trembling. From cold, pain, or fear, he couldn't tell. Probably all three. "I'm going to carry you across," he explained, mimicking the action. She hesitated, then nodded again. Evan lifted her carefully, surprised at how light she felt despite being nearly as tall as he was. Her skin was warm to the touch, and she smelled faintly of something like cinnamon and ozone, an oddly pleasant combination. He navigated the river crossing with practiced ease, his sturdy boots finding purchase on the slippery rocks. The woman in his arms gradually relaxed, her head eventually resting against his shoulder. "My name is Evan," he said as they reached the other side, tapping his chest with his free hand. She studied him for a moment before responding. "Ilari," she said, mimicking his gesture. Ilari, he repeated, testing the name. Let's get you somewhere safe. The journey back to Evan's cave was slow and careful. Each time he adjusted his grip on Ilari, she made a small sound, somewhere between a gasp and a musical note, that sent an unexpected shiver down his spine. Almost there, he said, more to fill the silence than anything else. The translator on his wrist occasionally sparked with partial translations of her soft murmurs, but nothing coherent emerged. The entrance to his dwelling was concealed behind a cascade of native vines that had grown over what must have once been a grand doorway. Inside, the temperature dropped pleasantly, a natural ventilation system keeping the air fresh despite being deep within the mountain. Evan gently set Ilari down on his makeshift bed, a collection of salvage cushions and thermal blankets arranged on a stone platform that seemed designed for that purpose. The ancient lighting system, powered by whatever mysterious energy source the original builders had used, sensed their presence and gradually brightened. Ilari's eyes widened as she took in her surroundings, her gaze lingering on the hieroglyphs that covered the walls. Her fingers traced one of the symbols, and she whispered something that made his translator crackle. "You recognize these?" Evan asked, pointing to the symbols. She nodded slowly, then winced as she shifted her injured leg. "Let me look at that," he said, gesturing toward her injury. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded again, carefully adjusting her torn dress to reveal a nasty gash running from her knee halfway up her thigh. The wound wasn't bleeding heavily, but the edges had an unusual iridescent quality that concerned him. Evan retrieved his medical kit, a combination of colony supplies and local remedies he'd discovered over the years. As he cleaned the wound, he noticed her watching his every move with those luminous turquoise eyes. There was curiosity there, but something else too, an intensity that made his hands less steady than they should have been. "This might sting," he warned, applying a disinfectant. She didn't flinch, just continued watching him with that unnerving focus. When he finished bandaging the wound, her hand covered his, the touch light but unmistakably deliberate. "Thank you," she said clearly, the words perfectly accented despite being in his language. Evan startled. "You speak English?" A small smile curved her lips. "Not much. Learning from you." She tapped her temple. "Fast learner." "That's impressive," he managed, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting and how her hand still rested on his. Ilari's smile widened slightly. "Your kind humans, fascinating." "I could say the same about you," Evan replied, trying to maintain his composure despite the strange warmth spreading through him at her touch. "Where are you from? Who's after you?" Her expression darkened. She withdrew her hand and looked away. "Bad people. Want me for my blood." "Your blood?" Evan frowned. "I don't understand." Ilari seemed to struggle for words, then pointed to the hieroglyphs on the wall. "My family. Like them?" She gestured around the cave. "Builders. You're related to whoever built this place?" Evan asked incredulously. She nodded. "Long ago, my blood, special, can wake." She gestured vaguely. "Sleeping things. And these people chasing you want to use that ability?" "Yes, use me. Control, old power." Her eyes met his again, and there was a vulnerability there that made his chest tighten. "Not want to be used." "I won't let them," Evan said firmly, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. 6 years of isolation, and suddenly he was making promises to protect someone he'd just met. Ilari's expression softened. She reached out, her fingertips lightly tracing the scar that ran along his jawline. "Why help me?" "Not your problem." The touch sent electricity through him. How long had it been since he felt another person's touch? Years, and never one that affected him quite like this. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said, his voice rougher than he intended. She tilted her head slightly. "Right thing?" The translator struggled with the concept. "It means..." Evan paused, considering. "It means helping others when they need it, even if there's nothing in it for you." Ilari seemed to contemplate this. "Human strange," she finally said, but there was warmth in her voice. "My people always want something back. We're not all saints, Evan admitted with a small smile. But sometimes we surprise ourselves. She moved closer, her scent, that strange mixture of cinnamon and ozone, enveloping him. I like surprises, she whispered. The air between them seemed to thicken. Evan found himself leaning forward, drawn by something he couldn't quite name. Her eyes fluttered closed as their lips met in a tentative kiss. The contact sent a jolt through him, unlike anything he'd experienced before. A tingling sensation that spread from his lips throughout his entire body. When they parted, both were breathing harder. That was, Evan began. Yes, Ilari agreed, her eyes now glowing more intensely. Human custom? Something like that, he managed, still reeling from the sensation. She smiled. A genuine, unguarded expression that transformed her already beautiful face into something almost radiant. I like human customs. Outside, night had fallen completely, the twin moons of this alien world casting silver light through the small openings in the cave ceiling. In the distance, a predator called out, its cry echoing across the mountains. But inside, in this ancient place of stone and secrets, something new was beginning. Something neither of them had expected to find. The night deepened around them, the ancient cave illuminated only by the soft blue glow of bioluminescent fungi that clung to the ceiling and the occasional flicker from Evan's portable heater. After their unexpected kiss, a comfortable silence had settled between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. Ilari sat cross-legged on the bed, her injured leg carefully extended, watching as Evan prepared a simple meal from his stores. Her command of his language seemed to improve with each passing hour. Your weapon, she said suddenly, nodding toward the alien device propped against the wall. You know what it truly is? Evan glanced at it. A weapon I found in the lower chambers. Works for me. Doesn't work for anyone else I've met. A smile played at the corners of her lips. Not weapon, key. A key? Evan handed her a bowl of reconstituted stew. To what? To this. She gestured around them. All of this. The sanctuary. The knowledge. Evan sat beside her, their shoulders touching. The contact sent that same electric tingle through him. I don't understand. Ilari took a deep breath, her luminous eyes reflecting the blue light from above. My people, the Etheri, we visited Earth long ago, when humans were younger? Visited Earth? Evan nearly choked on his food. You're saying your people came to Earth? She nodded. Many times. Your ancestors called us different names. Gods, sometimes. Evan's mind raced through ancient mythologies. Like the Greek gods? Egyptian? All of them. Different times, different names. Her fingers traced patterns in the air, mimicking the hieroglyphs on the wall. We helped, taught, guided. Some Etheri wanted to rule, but most wanted to nurture. And these ruins? This place? Diplomatic outpost, meeting place between Etheri and humans. Her expression grew wistful. Long ago, before the Great Schism. Schisms? Civil war. Between those who saw humans as equals to nurture and those who saw humans as tools to use. Her hand found his, fingers intertwining naturally. My family, we were of the first group. We believed in humanity's potential. The implications staggered Evan. So human mythology, our ancient stories about gods and visitors from the sky? Based on truth, she confirmed, distorted by time, but truth. And the weapon, the key, responds to me because... Ilari's eyes met his, intense and searching. Etheri blood can activate our technology, but we also created compatibility with humans we trusted. Your key responds to you because you are worthy. Worthy? Evan couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. I'm just a colony grunt who got lucky and found this place. No luck, she said firmly. The sanctuary chose you. Recognized something in you that matched its parameters. Their faces were close now, her breath warm against his cheek. What parameters? Courage, honor, compassion. Each word was punctuated by her moving slightly closer. Qualities my ancestors valued in their human allies. The revelation should have overwhelmed him, but somehow, in this moment, with her so close, it felt secondary to the heat building between them. "And what do you value, Ilari?" he asked, voice husky. "The same." Her hand came up to trace the line of his jaw. "You saved me without knowing me, protected me without demanding payment. On my world, unheard of." "Just being human," he murmured. "No," she whispered. "Being extraordinary." Their lips met again, but this time there was nothing tentative about it. The electric sensation returned tenfold, spreading through his body like liquid fire. Her arms wound around his neck as she pressed against him, the heat of her body merging with his. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Evan noticed something remarkable. The hieroglyphs on the walls had begun to glow with the same turquoise color as her eyes. "What's happening?" he asked, not taking his hands from her waist. Ilari smiled, a mixture of wonder and desire in her expression. "The sanctuary responds to emotions. Strong emotions. Is that normal? For my people, joining is more than physical." Her fingers played with the hair at the nape of his neck. "It is energy exchange, creates resonance." The glowing symbols pulsed gently, casting moving shadows across their faces. Outside, the wind had picked up, whistling through the mountain peaks. "Will it hurt you?" Evan asked, suddenly concerned. Ilari laughed, a sound like silver bells. "No." Opposite. Healing, strengthening. Her eyes darkened with desire. "For both of us." What followed was unlike anything Evan had experienced before, a connection that transcended the physical, though that aspect was intoxicating enough. As they came together on his makeshift bed, the entire chamber seemed to resonate with them, the ancient technology responding to their union in ways that defied explanation. Afterward, they lay entwined, the glow from the walls gradually dimming to a soft ambient light. Ilari's head rested on his chest, her silvery blue hair spread across his skin like liquid moonlight. "That was..." Evan struggled for words. "Yes," she agreed, tracing patterns on his chest. "Human ways are intense, beautiful." He laughed softly. "I think you added something extra to the experience." She propped herself up on one elbow, studying his face with newfound tenderness. "The resonance. It forged a connection between us." "You felt it?" "Like nothing I've ever felt before," he admitted. "Among my people, such connections are rare, precious." Her expression grew serious. "Those who hunt me, they would use this power for domination, force the resonance to control ancient systems." "The people from the second faction of the schism you mentioned?" She nodded. "The Dominion. They believe the old ways were right, that humans should serve, not stand as equals. And they're after you because your blood can activate this technology?" "Yes. As descendant of the original architects, my genetic pattern is master key." She sat up, pulling the blanket around her. "The weapon you carry, it is one of 5 keys to the greatest secret my ancestors left behind." "Which is..." Ilari's eyes gleamed in the dim light. "A ship, not just any ship, a world ship, hidden within this mountain range, with power to change the balance between worlds." Evan sat up beside her, the implications sinking in. "And they want to use it against humanity?" "Against all free peoples. The Dominion believes in absolute control." Her hand found his again. "That is why I ran. Why I cannot let them find me." Outside, the first hints of dawn were beginning to lighten the sky. A new day was coming, and with it, Evan suspected, the hunters would not be far behind. Evan woke with a start, his soldier's instincts instantly alert. Something had changed. Beside him, Ilari slept peacefully, her silvery blue hair splayed across the pillow, her face serene in the dim light of early dawn. For a moment, he allowed himself to simply watch her, marveling at how quickly she had transformed his solitary existence. Then he heard it, a low, rhythmic thrumming that vibrated through the stone walls. Not natural, mechanical. "Ilari," he whispered, gently shaking her shoulder. "Wake up." Her eyes opened immediately, turquoise irises focusing with remarkable clarity. "They're here," she said simply. Not a question? Sounds like it. Evan was already pulling on his clothes, strapping the alien weapon, the key to his back. "How much time do we have?" "Not much." She rose gracefully, wincing slightly as she tested her injured leg. It looked better this morning, the iridescent quality of the wound having faded to a dull shimmer. The resonance we created last night, they would have detected it. Evan felt heat rise to his face at the memory of their night together. "Our connection triggered something they could track?" "Energy signature, unmistakable." She reached for the tattered remains of her dress, then hesitated. "I need something more practical." Evan rummaged through his storage containers and produced a spare set of his clothes. Dark green utility pants and a fitted thermal shirt. These might work. As Ilari changed, Evan moved to the cave entrance, carefully peering through a narrow observation slit he'd carved years ago. What he saw made his blood run cold. Ships, dozens of them, hovered in formation around the mountain peak. Not the bulky transport vessels used by the colony, but sleek, predatory craft with lines that somehow reminded him of ancient sea creatures. Their hulls gleamed with an oily iridescence similar to Ilari's wound. "I count at least 30, he reported, stepping back from the slit. "Maybe more behind the ridge." Ilari joined him, now dressed in his clothes, which fit her surprisingly well. The dark green fabric contrasted beautifully with her silvery blue hair, which she had quickly braided down her back. She looked less like a fugitive princess now, and more like a warrior. "Dominion vessels," she confirmed after a glance. "Hunt ships. They're scanning for life signs." "Will they find us?" "Eventually." "This sanctuary has shielding, but not against focused Dominion scans." She turned to him, her expression determined. "We need to access the deeper chambers." "There are deeper chambers?" Evan had explored extensively, but had found only collapsed tunnels beyond his living area. Instead of answering, Ilari moved to the far wall where a particularly complex set of hieroglyphs covered the stone. She placed her palm against the central symbol, and her eyes began to glow with that same turquoise light. The resonance between them from the night before seemed to linger. Evan could feel a faint tingling across his skin as she connected with the ancient technology. The stone wall shimmered and then simply dissolved, revealing a dark passage beyond. "Holy shit," Evan breathed. "The sanctuary responds to need," Ilari explained, taking his hand. "And right now our need is great." The thrumming sound intensified. Outside, something large moved past the observation slit, momentarily blocking the dawn light. "They're deploying ground forces," Evan noted, recognizing the tactical approach. "Standard encirclement. They'll have troops at every possible exit within minutes." "Then we must hurry," Ilari tugged him toward the passage. "Bring the key." As they stepped through the opening, lights activated along the ceiling, not electric, but some kind of bioluminescent material that reminded Evan of the fungi in his cave, only brighter and clearly engineered. The passage descended steeply, curving in a spiral that took them deeper into the mountain. The walls here were different. Not rough stone, but smooth, almost metallic surfaces covered in more complex versions of the hieroglyphs he'd grown accustomed to. "What is this place?" Evan asked, his voice hushed in the enclosed space. "Control center," Ilari replied. "Heart of the sanctuary's defense systems." "Defense systems? You mean this place can defend itself?" She glanced back at him, a small smile playing on her lips. "Why do you think the locals avoid it?" "The sanctuary has protected itself for millennia." They reached a circular chamber with a domed ceiling that displayed what appeared to be a real-time map of the surrounding area. Evan could see the Dominion ships represented as pulsing red dots. In smaller dots that must be ground troops converging on the mountain. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal with 5 depressions arranged in a star pattern. One of them glowed faintly. "The key," Ilari said, pointing to the weapon on Evan's back. "Place it there." Evan unstrapped the device and examined it with new eyes. What he had thought was a trigger mechanism now clearly resembled a handle, and the barrel was inscribed with the same hieroglyphs that covered the walls. He placed it in the glowing depression. It fit perfectly. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entire chamber hummed to life, the map display brightening and expanding to show more detail. Additional symbols appeared, flowing across the walls in complex patterns. 4 keys remain scattered, Ilari murmured, studying the symbols. But one is enough to activate basic defenses. Above them, a tremendous boom shook the mountain, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. They're getting impatient, Evan observed dryly. Ilari's hands moved over the pedestal, interacting with controls that weren't visible to Evan's eyes. The sanctuary recognizes me as Etheri, but its loyalty protocols are hesitant. The resonance we shared has helped, but another boom, closer this time. What do you need? Evan asked, stepping closer to her. More resonance? Her eyes met his, and that electric connection sparked between them again. Yes, but different than before. The sanctuary needs to recognize you as my chosen consort, a true ally of the Etheri. Consort? Despite the danger, Evan couldn't help but smile. Is that a proposal? A faint blush colored her cheeks, the first time he'd seen her composure slip. In my culture, it is significant, a life bond, not undertaken lightly. The implications were enormous, but strangely, Evan felt no hesitation. In the space of one night, this alien woman had awakened something in him he'd thought long dead. Hope, connection, purpose. What do we need to do? He asked. Join hands with me, she instructed, extending her palms, and open your mind to the resonance. As their fingers intertwined, that now familiar tingle intensified into a flood of sensation. Evan gasped as energy coursed between them, their shared connection from the previous night amplifying the effect. The chamber around them pulsed with light, the hieroglyphs glowing brighter and brighter until they were standing in a whirlwind of luminous symbols. Through their joined hands, Evan felt Ilari's consciousness brush against his. Alien yet familiar, complex yet fundamentally compatible. In that moment of connection, he understood her more completely than words could ever allow. Above them, the mountain trembled under another assault. But now something was responding. The sanctuary was awakening. The chamber shuddered as another blast struck the mountain above. Dust and small fragments of stone rained down, but the ancient technology held firm. Through their joined hands, Evan and Ilari maintained the resonance that was awakening the sanctuary's systems. A new section of the wall dissolved, revealing a dark tunnel stretching away into the mountain's depths. The escape route, Ilari breathed, her eyes still glowing with that unearthly turquoise light. It leads toward the world ship. Evan glanced at the map display, where red dots representing Dominion troops were now penetrating the outer chambers of his cave home. We need to move. Now. He reached for his key, but Ilari stopped him. Leave it. The sanctuary needs it to maintain basic defenses, to buy us time. But you said it's one of 5 keys needed for the world ship. We'll find another. Her confidence was absolute. The map showed me where to look. Evan hesitated only a moment before nodding. The soldier in him recognized the tactical necessity. Sacrificing a resource to secure an escape route was basic strategy. They broke their physical connection, though Evan could still feel the lingering resonance between them, a warm, pulsing awareness of Ilari's presence that transcended normal senses. It was as if a part of her consciousness remained intertwined with his, a side effect of their bonding that felt surprisingly natural. This way, Ilari said, taking his hand again as they entered the tunnel. The bioluminescent lighting activated ahead of them, illuminating a passage that sloped gently downward, curving deeper into the mountain. How far does this go? Evan asked as they moved at a brisk pace, the sounds of the Dominion assault growing fainter behind them. Many kilometers. The world ship is hidden beneath the tallest peak in the range. The one the locals call the Spear? She nodded. The perfect camouflage. No one would suspect an ancient vessel rests within a natural formation. As they traveled, the tunnel's construction changed, transitioning from carved stone to what appeared to be a manufactured material with a subtle metallic sheen. The hieroglyphs here were more complex, and occasionally pulsing with light as they passed. The tunnel is scanning us, Ilari explained, noticing his curious glance at the symbols. Confirming our identities. Will it recognize me as your consort? The word still felt strange on Evan's tongue, laden with implications he was only beginning to understand. A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. "Oh yes, the resonance between us is unmistakable." Her fingers squeezed his. "In etheric culture, such bonds are rare and celebrated." "How rare?" Evan asked, curious about the customs of her people. "In 10 generations of my family, only 3 have found true resonance partners." Her eyes met his, filled with a warmth that made his heart race. "It is considered the highest blessing of the ancestors." "So I'm special, huh?" He grinned, trying to lighten the moment even as the weight of their situation pressed upon them. "More than you know," she replied seriously. "Humans were the only non-etheric species ever found to be compatible for resonance. It's why some of my ancestors believed our peoples were meant to evolve together." The tunnel suddenly widened into a small chamber with multiple branching passages. In the center stood a pedestal similar to the one in the control room, but with only a single depression. "A junction point," Ilaria explained, approaching the pedestal. "We need to activate the correct path and seal the others behind us, huh? How do we do that without a key?" Her eyes met his, a hint of mischief in their turquoise depths. "We already have the key." She took both his hands in hers. "Us. Our resonance." Understanding dawned on Evan. "Like before, we join minds?" "More than minds," she whispered, stepping closer until their bodies were nearly touching. "The resonance flows strongest through physical connection." Despite the danger pursuing them, Evan felt a surge of desire as Ilari pressed against him, her face tilted up toward his. Their lips met in a kiss that immediately rekindled the electric sensation from the night before, but stronger now, more focused. The chamber around them responded, the hieroglyphs glowing brighter as their embrace deepened. Evan felt as if he were dissolving into her, their separate consciousnesses merging into something greater than either alone. Through this enhanced connection, he suddenly understood the symbols surrounding them, not in words, but in concepts, pure meaning flowing directly into his mind. He knew which passage to take, could sense the mechanisms that would seal the tunnels behind them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, the pedestal was glowing with the same turquoise light as Ilari's eyes. That was... Evan struggled to find words. "Efficient?" Ilari suggested with a teasing smile. He laughed, the sound echoing in the ancient chamber. "I was going to say incredible, but efficient works too." A distant rumbling reminded them of the pursuit. Ilari placed her palm on the glowing pedestal, and one of the passages illuminated more brightly than the others. "This way," she said, quickly. As they entered the chosen tunnel, the entrance sealed behind them, not with a door, but with the same dissolution effect in reverse. Solid stone flowing into place where the opening had been. "That should slow them down," Evan observed. "For a while," Ilari agreed, "but the Dominion has technology that can penetrate stone. We need to keep moving." The new tunnel sloped more steeply downward, occasionally branching into smaller passages that Ilari confidently navigated. Their enhanced connection allowed Evan to sense her certainty. She wasn't guessing at the route. She knew it, as if the map had been imprinted directly into her consciousness. "How much farther to the world ship?" he asked after what felt like hours of steady progress. "We're about halfway," she replied. "But there's something else we need first." "Another key?" She nodded. "Hidden in a sanctuary outpost ahead. One of my ancestors concealed it there during the schism, ensuring only those with proper resonance could retrieve it." "And that's us?" "That's us," she confirmed with a smile that made his heart skip. "The perfect pairing of etheri and human. Exactly what my ancestors hoped would someday emerge." The tunnel opened into another chamber, smaller than the previous one, but more elaborately decorated. The walls here depicted scenes that Evan recognized with a start. Ancient Earth civilizations interacting with beings that could only be the etheri, pyramids being constructed, Stonehenge, other monuments he couldn't immediately identify. "Our shared history," Ilari said softly, following his gaze. "What could have been, had the schism not driven us apart?" "And what could still be," Evan suggested, drawing her close again. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. "Yes, what could still be?" Their kiss this time was gentler, but no less powerful, the resonance between them humming like a perfectly tuned instrument. In that moment, despite the danger pursuing them and the uncertain path ahead, Evan felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope for a future worth fighting for. They had been traveling for nearly 2 hours through the winding tunnels when Evan's military instincts flared. He stopped abruptly, placing a hand on Ilari's arm. "Listen," he whispered. At first there was only silence, but then a faint metallic scraping, echoing through the ancient passageway. Not the natural sounds of settling stone or water dripping, but something deliberate, mechanical. Dominion scouts, Ilari confirmed, her enhanced senses detecting what Evan had only suspected. They've accessed the tunnel network through another entrance. How? I thought these passages were sealed. There are multiple access points throughout the mountain range, diplomatic entrances from the old days. Her expression darkened. The Dominion must have uncovered one. Evan assessed their situation with the cool efficiency of his military training. They were in a straight section of tunnel with no immediate cover or branching paths. Ahead lay their objective, the chamber containing the second key. Behind them was the way they had come, now potentially compromised. "How much farther to the key?" he asked. "Less than half a kilometer," Ilari replied. "But we're caught between their forces and our objective." Evan ran his hand along the tunnel wall, feeling the subtle vibration of the ancient technology beneath his fingertips. Through their resonance bond, he sensed Ilari's knowledge of the system, fragmented but substantial. "These tunnels have defenses, don't they?" he asked. "Like the sanctuary?" A smile of understanding spread across her face. "Yes, but they're dormant, designed to activate only in response to specific threats." "Can our resonance wake them?" Instead of answering, Ilari pressed her body against his, her hands framing his face as she brought their foreheads together. The now familiar electric sensation flowed between them, but this time Evan consciously directed it, focusing their shared energy toward the tunnel walls. The hieroglyphs around them began to glow, first dimly, then with increasing brightness. Through their connection, Evan perceived the tunnel's systems as a complex network of energy pathways, like a nervous system running through the mountain itself. "There," Ilari whispered, guiding his awareness to a specific junction in the network. "Defense Protocol Alpha 7. Together, they activated the ancient sequence. The tunnel walls shimmered as hidden panels slid open, revealing mechanisms that had lain dormant for millennia. Not weapons in the conventional sense, but something more elegant, energy disruptors designed to incapacitate without destroying. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder, multiple sets moving with military precision. "We need to keep moving," Evan said, breaking their connection but maintaining a light touch on Ilari's arm. "The defenses will slow them down, but we need to reach that key." They continued forward at a faster pace, the tunnel gradually widening as they approached their destination. Behind them, they heard the first shouts of alarm as the Dominion scouts encountered the activated defenses, followed by the distinctive hum of energy discharges. "That won't hold them for long," Ilari warned. "Dominion troops carry shield generators specifically designed to counter Etheri technology." "Then we'd better hurry." The tunnel finally opened into a vast chamber that took Evan's breath away. Unlike the previous spaces they'd encountered, this one appeared to be inside a massive geode, the walls lined with enormous purple-blue crystals that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. At the center stood a dais surrounded by a ring of smaller crystals, and upon it, hovering in a column of light, was an object similar to Evan's key, but more ornate. "The second key," Ilari breathed. As they approached the dais, the crystals pulsed with increasing intensity, responding to their presence. The hovering key rotated slowly, as if examining them. "It's scanning us," Ilari explained, "verifying our resonance signature." A beam of light shot from the key, washing over them both. Evan felt a tingling sensation as it passed through him, neither pleasant nor painful, simply assessing. The light suddenly intensified, and the key descended from its column, settling into Ilari's outstretched hands. "It accepts us," she said with evident relief. The moment was shattered by the sound of weapons fire echoing through the tunnel behind them. The Dominion forces had broken through the first line of defenses. "We need to seal this chamber," Evan said, scanning the room for exits. He spotted another tunnel entrance on the far side, presumably continuing toward the world ship. Ilari nodded, clutching the key to her chest. The crystals can generate a barrier, but I need your help to activate it. They moved to the center of the dais, standing back to back as Ilari raised the key above her head. Evan reached up to place his hands over hers, their fingers intertwining around the ancient device. The resonance between them surged, amplified by the key and the surrounding crystals. The sensation was overwhelming, like being immersed in pure energy. Evan felt Ilari's consciousness merge with his more completely than ever before, their separate identities temporarily dissolving into a single, harmonious whole. Through this perfect union, they commanded the chamber's defenses. The crystals blazed with blinding light, and a translucent barrier shimmered into existence across the entrance they had used. Just in time, a squad of Dominion soldiers appeared at the tunnel mouth, their armor gleaming with that same oily iridescence Evan had observed on their ships. They fired energy weapons at the barrier, but the blast dissipated harmlessly against it. "It won't hold forever," Ilari said, as they broke their connection, both gasping from the intensity of the experience. "We need to continue toward the world ship." As they moved toward the far exit, the lead Dominion soldier removed his helmet, revealing features similar to Ilari's but harder, colder, his eyes a metallic silver rather than turquoise. "Ilari of House Talon," he called out, his voice carrying easily through the barrier, "your father demands your return. This human cannot protect you from the might of the Dominion." Ilari froze, her expression a mixture of anger and pain. "Commander Varks, tell my father I reject his demands and his politics. The world ship will never be used as a weapon of conquest." The Commander Varks smiled coldly. "Your father anticipated your defiance. That's why he sent me with this." He held up a small device that pulsed with sickly green light. Ilari's face paled. "A resonance disruptor. Evan, we need to go, now." They ran for the far tunnel as Varks activated the device, and a wave of discordant energy washed through the chamber, causing the crystal barrier to flicker. Evan felt their resonance bond waver, like a radio signal suddenly filled with static. They reached the exit just as the barrier collapsed. Dominion troops poured into the chamber, weapons raised. "Seal it!" Evan shouted. Ilari thrust the key into a receptacle beside the tunnel entrance. The walls responded immediately, flowing together behind them as they sprinted down the new passage. "What was that device?" Evan asked as they ran. "Technology developed during the schism," Ilari explained between breaths, "designed to disrupt the resonance bond between etheri pairs. If we'd been exposed to its full effect, our connection would have been severed," Evan finished, understanding the implications. Without their resonance, they couldn't activate the ancient systems, couldn't reach the world ship. "Exactly. And more than that," she hesitated, her pace slowing slightly. "The bond between us is more than just functional, Evan. It's becoming part of who we are." He took her hand as they continued forward at a steadier pace. "Then we won't let them break it." The tunnel ahead widened, the bioluminescent lighting growing brighter. They were approaching something significant. "We're close," Ilari confirmed, sensing his thoughts through their bond. "The world ship is just ahead. With this second key, we can access its outer chambers." "And then what?" Her eyes met his, filled with determination and something deeper, a trust and affection that made his heart race despite their danger. "Then we take control of the most powerful vessel ever created by my people," she said, "and we use it to end the Dominion's threat once and for all." The tunnel ended abruptly, opening into a vast cavern that defied comprehension. Evan stopped in his tracks, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. "My God," he whispered. Before them, embedded within the mountain itself, was a vessel of impossible proportions. Its gleaming hull stretched upward into darkness, curving organically like a living thing rather than a constructed machine. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed across its surface in rhythmic waves, as if the ship were breathing. "The world ship," Ilari confirmed, her voice filled with reverence. "Nexus of hope, the greatest achievement of my ancestors." Evan stared in awe. "It's alive?" "In a sense. Semi-organic technology, capable of growth and adaptation." She took his hand, guiding him toward a platform that extended to meet the ship's hull. "Come, we don't have much time." They approached a section of the hull that appeared more intricate than the rest, covered in patterns similar to the hieroglyphs they'd seen throughout the tunnels. At its center was a recessed panel with two key-shaped depressions. The primary access point, Ilaria explained, removing the ornate key from her pocket. Your key should be here too. But we left it in the sanctuary. A smile played at her lips. The keys are quantum paired. When we activated the second, it established a link with the first. She placed her key in one of the depressions, and to Evan's astonishment, a duplicate of his own key materialized in the second slot, appearing first as particles of light that gradually solidified. The hull before them shimmered and dissolved, revealing a corridor that led deeper into the ship. They stepped inside, and Evan felt the subtle vibration of ancient systems awakening beneath his feet. "It's responding to us," he observed. "To our resonance," Ilari corrected. The ship was designed to be piloted by bonded pairs, etheri and human working in perfect harmony. They moved swiftly through corridors that lit up as they approached, the ship seemingly anticipating their path. Behind them, they could hear the distant sounds of pursuit, the Dominion forces breaking through their last barrier. "Here," Ilari said, stopping before a massive doorway that slid open at their approach. They entered what could only be the bridge, a circular chamber dominated by a central pedestal surrounded by crystalline control interfaces. Above them, the ceiling was transparent, revealing the interior of the mountain cavern. "The command nexus," Ilari explained, approaching the pedestal. "From here, we can activate the ship's primary systems." Before they could reach it, another door on the far side of the bridge slid open. A tall, regal Etheri male entered, flanked by two guards. Unlike the soldiers they'd encountered earlier, he wore no armor, only flowing robes of midnight blue embroidered with silver symbols. "Father," Ilari said, her voice tight with emotion. Evan tensed, ready for confrontation, but the older Etheri raised his hand in a gesture of peace. "Daughter," he said, his voice deep and resonant, "I've come to stop this madness, not to perpetuate it." Ilari's confusion was evident. "You sent Varks to capture me." "To protect you," her father corrected. "From the Dominion Council. They've gone too far, planning to use the world ship as a weapon of conquest rather than its intended purpose." "And what is its intended purpose?" Evan asked, still wary. The older Etheri studied him with interest. "You must be the human who formed a resonance bond with my daughter." He inclined his head respectfully. "I am Talon, once High Counselor of the Dominion. Now, a father seeking redemption." "Answer his question," Ilari insisted. "Protection," Talon replied simply. "The world ship was designed to generate a planetary shield, to safeguard both our peoples from external threats." A commotion outside the bridge interrupted them, the sounds of energy, weapons, and shouting. "Varks and his loyalists," Talon explained grimly. "They tracked me here, hoping to seize the ship before I could reach you." "What? Why should we trust you?" Evan demanded. "Because I brought this." Talon produced a third key, more ornate than either of theirs. The master key. Without it, the ship's defensive capabilities cannot be activated. Ilari's eyes widened in recognition. "The Archon key? You stole it from the Council?" "I reclaimed what belongs to our family," Talon corrected. "Our ancestors built this ship to protect, not to conquer. The Council has forgotten that purpose." The doors behind Talon burst open. Commander Varks entered with a squad of heavily armed troops, their weapons trained on all of them. "High Counselor," Varks said coldly, "you are charged with treason against the Dominion. The only treason here is against our people's true principles." Talon replied, standing tall, despite the weapons aimed at him. Varks sneered. "Principles? Your daughter has contaminated herself by bonding with a human, and now you defend her." "The ship was always meant to be controlled by such bonds," Talon said. "Our ancestors understood what we have forgotten, that humanity's unique consciousness, when joined with our own, creates a harmony greater than either alone." Varks raised his weapon. "Enough talk. Hand over the keys." In that moment, Evan felt Ilari's consciousness brush against his through their bond, conveying a plan without words. He subtly positioned himself closer to the central pedestal as Talon continued to distract Varks. "The Council fears what it cannot control," Talon was saying. "But some things were never meant to be controlled, only partnered with." Varks' patience snapped. "Take them!" he ordered his troops. Everything happened at once. Talon threw the master key to Ilari, who caught it deftly. Evan lunged for the pedestal, pulling Ilari with him. The Dominion troops opened fire, but Tylon's guards moved to shield them, returning fire with precision. Evan and Ilari reached the pedestal together. Without hesitation, they placed their hands on it, Ilari clutching the master key between their palms. Their resonance surged instantly, amplified by the ship's systems to a level they hadn't experienced before. Through their merged consciousness, Evan suddenly understood the ship's controls, as if he'd been born to them. He could feel Ilari guiding him, their thoughts flowing together in perfect synchronization. The world ship responded with breathtaking speed. Energy cascaded through its systems, the bioluminescent patterns accelerating to a brilliant glow. The transparent ceiling above them showed the mountain itself beginning to shift, ancient mechanisms separating the peak to reveal the sky beyond. "What are they doing?" Vark shouted, firing wildly at the pedestal. His shots dissipated harmlessly against a shield that had formed around Evan and Ilari. Through their bond, they commanded the ship's internal defenses. Containment fields activated, immobilizing Varks and his troops where they stood. "The human advantage," Tylon said, watching in awe as the ship responded to their joined consciousness. Something the Dominion could never achieve through force. The world ship's primary systems came fully online, responding to the unique harmonics created by the human ethereal resonance. Evan could feel the vessel's true purpose unfolding in his mind. Not a weapon of war, but a shield for all peoples. "Activating planetary defense grid," Ilari announced, her voice blending with Evan's as they spoke in perfect unison. Above them, the mountain continued to open, revealing the Dominion fleet still hovering in the sky. Before the ships could react, a pulse of energy erupted from the world ship, expanding outward in a dome of translucent light that encompassed the entire mountain range. The Dominion vessels fired upon the shield, but their weapons had no effect. Through the resonance, Evan and Ilari extended the ship's influence, disabling the fleet's weapon systems without harming the crews. "It's over, Varks," Talon said, approaching the immobilized commander. "The world ship has awakened, and it serves its true purpose once more." As the immediate threat subsided, Evan and Ilari gradually eased their connection with the ship, though their personal resonance remained strong, perhaps even stronger than before. "What happens now?" Evan asked, still holding Ilari's hand. Tylon approached them, bowing deeply. "Now we rebuild. The awakening of the world ship will signal to all Aetheri that the old ways have returned. Many will abandon the Dominion's path of conquest." "And those who don't?" Ilari questioned. "They will find their ambitions thwarted by the shield this vessel can generate, protecting both our peoples as the ancestors intended." Evan looked at Ilari, feeling the depth of their connection. A bond that transcended species and had quite literally changed the course of history. "I guess helping you across that river was the best decision I ever made," he said with a smile. "For both of us," she replied, her turquoise eyes shimmering with emotion. "Our ancestors believed human and Aetheri were meant to evolve together. Perhaps they were right." Talon cleared his throat. "The ship requires bonded pairs to maintain its systems. It would be appropriate if you too would consider becoming its first guardians." Evan raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a job, sir?" "I'm offering you both a future," Talon corrected. "As equals. As partners." Ilari's eyes met Evan's, a question in them that needed no words. He answered by pulling her close, their lips meeting in a kiss that sent ripples of energy through the ship around them. When they parted, Evan looked out through the transparent ceiling at the disabled Dominion fleet and the shield that now protected the mountains, and would soon protect much more. Humanity and Aetheri, working together, he mused. "I think I like the sound of that." "As do I," Ilari agreed, resting her head against his chest. "It seems the universe had plans for us after all." Above them, the shield shimmered with the combined energy of their peoples, a new beginning forged from ancient wisdom, and the simple act of one human helping a lost alien girl across a mountain river.